It's Tuesday, 7 minutes after 7 as usual. My name is Kobby Spiky Nkrumah, and the geeks are in town. Last week, we were talking about WhatsApp's new privacy updates, and so much more about privacy came up. And so today, we want to talk to you about what you know about your apps and what do your apps know about you. And you know, it's surprising how many people were worried that their personal messages on WhatsApp could be read when they heard that WhatsApp said it was going to share their data with Facebook, and which was why a lot of people decided they were going to get off WhatsApp because they thought, hey, my messages, my groups, the things that I don't want anybody to find out are going to be found out. So they decided to leave. So question is, how much personal information are your apps gathering? And do they really need so much? Now, I'll give you a few statistics. The average smartphone user these days has between 60 to 90 apps on their device. Most of these apps request some sort of information about you and the device you're using. They may want to know your name, your email address, or your real-world address. But because smartphones are so powerful, they can actually get more than that, such as your exact location, and some apps will even request for access to your device camera or microphone, your contacts, your messages, and all the while without you even knowing. You know why? Because you clicked agree. Every single time it says, allow me, you said yes, allow. Allow, you said yes, allow. Allow, you said yes, allow. And now your phone is gathering all that data and you don't know. It doesn't mean that it was done without your consent because, yeah, you did actually ask. You did actually grant it your consent. Now, did you know that 45% of the most popular Android apps and 25% of the most popular iOS apps request location tracking, for example? Or that 46% of popular Android apps and 25% of popular iOS apps request permission to access your device camera. Some Android apps may even ask you to give them access to, as I mentioned, your SMS and your call logs. Now, today we're going to, dive in, put all these apps under the microscope and find out, do they really need this permission? We've done this a lot of times, but sometimes people don't realize how important it is until WhatsApp said, hey, we want your data. Now people are concerned. Anyway, so to have this conversation with me, I still have, from last week, Joseph Quay from the E-Crime Bureau. Hi, Joseph. And I have Winston. Winston joined us. We missed you last week, Winston.
Yeah.
And then Michael.
Hello, ladies.
You were here last week.
Yes, and the week before.
And then we have Joshua Opoku Ajimai, a.k.a. Brockers. Also here to join us. Winston, why? I can't use his a.k.a.
He asked for clarity on the a.k.a.
what, Brokers?
Don't worry. He'll explain to you after the show. You have to get your AKs. I like AKs. It's easier to remember. Anyways, guys. So, before we start the conversation, I want everyone to tell me what app has asked for the most absurd permission that you were wondering, why on earth does this app need this? Joseph, first with you. What app?
For me, I think straight away it will be Facebook Messenger.
Facebook Messenger. What permission did it ask you that you were...
It basically asked me for everything. It asked for my location, it asked for my camera, it asked for the ability to get access to my contact. It asked for... I think it has been the most permissions that I've ever experienced from an application.
Very, very intrusive.
Yeah, Facebook Messenger. And if you think about it, yes, they do need some of those applications, like those permissions, but I found out that I think they were excessive more than what they needed. So yeah, for me, it's Facebook Messenger.
For you, Winston?
So there's this snowboarding game app that was asking me permission to place calls. And I was like, why though? You're a game. Why do you need the ability to call people? I mean, if you want access to my contacts, that is understandable to a certain degree. But to call people, nah, man.
It's a
So it was asking for access to your phone to make phone calls.
Yeah, so it was asking to place phone calls, and that is unacceptable.
What if maybe you wanted to make a phone call to the person that you were snowboarding next to, and then you could have a
the first thing
conversation
is
with
that
them?
it be me, my credit, they take me.
So did you allow it or did you not?
No, I didn't.
Okay. Michael,
I actually don't remember.
you don't remember?
Aside Facebook, that is. because Facebook is the obvious answer. But aside that, I honestly don't remember the last most intrusive app I've ever used. Recently, I was helping a friend upgrade their phone and migrate their data. And they installed a game which asks for their contacts. Which I was confused at why does it need your contacts? Because it's going to eventually ask you to send in contact links to everyone. But while that was a bit unnecessary, it's not the worst offense I've seen. Because we still talk about being able to make phone calls. I've seen apps that actually tell me sometimes that WhatsApp tells me that, look, we know you want to share your data, but you have to turn your data off from only when WhatsApp is using it to being on permanently in the background. And sometimes I'll say yes, but as soon as I'm done with the application, back to only when I'm actually using WhatsApp. If then. Not the worst I've seen, but you know it can get worse.
Josh.
Yeah. Good evening to listeners, and thanks for tuning in. For me, I think Facebook is the one that demand much of permission. I think they are also gentle enough to ask for permission. Facebook was also built on data harnessing, it's a data machine. But however, Google takes the most data. Because from Android to Google Photos to Contact to Gmail to all the apps we use on Android, I think Google has the majority of these apps pre-installed on our phone before even thought of even installing an app. So Google takes almost the majority of the data from our phones.
So Google, Facebook, snowboarding game.
I think I'll even switch. I want to switch to
Google.
To Google too.
Yeah, Google is the boss.
You don't really think of Google as an app.
That's right.
The you never think of it that way.
You don't think
you
of
just
Google
sign
as
up
an
your
app.
Android phone and then
one
Google has
Gmail
so many
account,
services.
you access all their platforms.
YouTube and everything. So yes, they have more access than we think about.
Yeah.
The
Well,
obvious killer is
Google.
Now, so I'm sure if I was a listener on the other side, listening to you guys talking about permission, why should I be bothered about all this permission that's being taken from me? Why should I be bothered? Starting with you, Joseph.
Okay, so why should you be bothered? Well, I think that it's about what they take after the permissions. Like, what do they do with the data, right? There's several things. I'll analyze it from the business angle and also from the security angle. I think from the business angle, people feel that, and those who feel that if you're going to monetize my information, right, I need to have some say in that. Are you going to give me commission? Are you going to get? I mean, because you are going to make money from my information.
But
right?
here's the case: the app that you're using is free.
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay. So the app is free, right? But at the end of the day, right, there is still a money a money making model that people feel that if that is the case, then they need to be part of the decision making as far as you are going to make money out of that. The same way it happens with open source tools. You can get tools that are free, and then you need to and justify when you want to commercialize it. The security aspect of it is the fact that when it comes to apps and your permissions, right, there tends to be, in the case of abuses, right, because it's not all applications that are good. There are applications that are malicious in nature that can allow people to gain access to your phone and do so many bad things. Some of them piggyback off applications you already have. So that means that if the malicious or the bad application comes onto your phone, and there's already an application that has so many permissions, if it is able to hijack it, right, it also means that it has access to the permissions as well. So it seems that those kind of permissions give sort of like a gateway for other applications or maybe other bad websites or web links to take advantage and possibly endanger users. And I think those are the two things that, for me, if I analyze, I think that the permissions is something that should make people worried. Yes.
Okay, so from my perspective, the reason why users will have to allow permission is for a very good user experience. So, for instance, if you use WhatsApp and you want to have access to your friends on WhatsApp, you can't access that without allowing WhatsApp to access your contacts.
True.
So if you want to enjoy the beauty of the apps we use, you also have to trade something. Well, I wouldn't even call it trading. I would say you have to allow some access of your information in order for you to also experience the best of service. And that's what I think being the reason why
Spoken
we
like
have
a
to
true
allow
developer.
permissions. Yeah.
I mean, to add to what he's saying, let's take Uber into consideration.
Exactly.
Uber is a location-based app. So it means that to get the optimum functionality of Uber, it needs access to your GPS.
Yeah.
That's right.
Other than that, it will tell the driver that
go
you
to
are in
Circle.
Latabi Okoshi when you are in East Legon. And that is going to be a very terrible
Exactly.
experience
That's
use
right.
case. So permissions are basically just little gateways you give access to a particular app. Now the issue with WhatsApp recently, in my regard, I listened to the show last week, is that the new permissions that it is asking for, it is unnecessary. That is where the issue.
Why do you say
lies.
this?
I say this because, like I mentioned, Uber is a location-based app. If Uber tells you that, give us your location or won't give you access to the app, it makes sense, does it not? Because it needs to know where you are and where you want to go to get you a ride. WhatsApp, it's a messaging app. It doesn't in any way require full-fledged access to Facebook. It has been a messaging app for how many years now? And it has been working fine. I'm surprised they didn't do this with Messenger, which is an offshoot of Facebook in of itself. But Messenger takes the least amount of data from you, which is extremely shocking.
It takes the most or the least.
It actually
Messenger.
takes very, very little.
There is, yeah.
No, because they have it
Messenger.
already in Facebook proper.
Because from what I saw from some graphic, an infographic that was showing the amount of data that Messenger takes, boy was it scary. I mean, that's if you granted those permissions.
Exactly.
Like
You-
Joseph mentioned, accessing your messages, your text message. You know, Messenger literally wants to become your SMS app.
Yes.
It wants to be your calling app. It wants to be everything. Why? I already have a messaging app. I don't need
You know,
you.
I think we'll be talking about these permissions moving along, and there are some of these permissions that I've looked through. So I use the Exodus app, if you guys know. So basically, Exodus is this app that will show you all the apps you have and all the permissions
Yeah,
you,
given out.
as the user, allow the app to use, and what the app in itself has deemed it prudent for it to have, because that happens. There are certain times where they will tell you that these permissions are the ones you allow, but you inadvertently end up allowing some other things. So when you guys were talking about who takes the most permissions, it's Google Play Services at 230 something
Well, true.
permissions. Some of
It
these,
runs the whole phone. So what do you expect?
yes, exactly. So that
They
is
own the
fair.
OS.
It is the OS, it is the
Exactly.
backbone, and it's the bouncer in this regard, because you go to the Play Services to get your apps. So it would be like, okay, you come to you go back. So it needs that much permission. So maybe later we'll jump into the permissions that WhatsApp asks of you, and then we'll dive in.
Michael,
Yep. You can't see my smug face on behalf of the iOS listeners. At least those that have upgraded to iOS 14. But that's a conversation
for another day.
not another a few minutes later down the line. Not necessarily another day. I mean, granted, this is more an example of data breach, but it's an example of how important your personal data is to you as an individual. Now, I'm sure our listeners will remember that infamous photo of Mark Zuckerberg with his laptop camera taped over. If the founder and owner of Facebook deems it necessary and important to tape over his camera and his microphone so that something or someone isn't listening in, whether by design or not, without his express permission, like, oh, I'm coming to make this video call, I'll take it off then. If he deems it necessary, then yeah, perhaps you should also be very concerned about what data your apps and your phone is sending out to entities. Sometimes, yes, they will ask you straight up, give us this information about you that we can use on you. But then you have to then wonder, are you actually going to use this information as you say? How much more information are you going to take without me knowing? You need to know these things. I mean, I'm sure some of you have had these experiences where your phone is on standby in your pocket or wherever. You're talking to a friend about a random topic. You open Facebook or you even open YouTube or wherever, and the very first advert you see is that very thing you were talking
It's
about.
coincidence.
Yeah, you see, if it happens once, it's a coincidence. That's fine.
Once
When
in
it
a lifetime.
happens 15 times in a row, then suddenly you have to wonder which one of my apps has been snitching. Or is there a cue that they've all been listening to that fine? You take this part of the conversation, I'll take that part. It makes you wonder who is listening and what are they listening to? And what are they using that information for? Granted, a lot of the time, especially with apps, is to sell you stuff. It's to tailor advertisements to you to make sure that they want you to click on. And yeah, that is one aspect. But then what if it was something more malicious? Cambridge Analytica comes to mind, so on and so forth. So I'd say, yeah,
I have a funny experience to to add to Michael's.
you were there with that first one.
There was one time I was talking to a friend of mine on Twitter about season 3 of Flash. At the time, I didn't know better. I used to watch Flash. So,
What's that supposed to mean?
never mind. So, he and I were talking about this new review, and he had seen the episode, and I hadn't. And I don't care about spoilers, but he does, so he didn't want to tell me. So, we just tweeted about it across like just 3 tweets, and we're done. I opened YouTube, and there was obviously a very bad recording as my first recommendation of what we are talked about, the review. And I was like, why? First off, why does it have to be bad quality? I don't know why, but why is this here? So yeah, it happens. And it's coincidence.
Oh, is it?
No, it isn't.
So, you see, if you're just joining us, this is Joy Geek Squad on Joy 99.7 FM. We're talking about your apps and privacy and the permissions these apps are taking from us. Should you give them these permissions, and do they need these permissions? And so far, we've gotten to the point where we've realized that some of these apps are taking permission, which they indeed need, and some are very, very, very intrusive, yes, to say the least, and very spooky, because one moment you're there. Imagine if this was real life. You're talking to your friend, and then you turn, and then someone comes to you and says, "Look like a prophet, like, you want to buy a new phone? I have a shop. Come to me." Wouldn't that freak you out? Which is what a lot of people are feeling right now. They're feeling freaked out by the fact that the apps that they use are spying on them. Yeah. Is this something, Joseph? This comes to you because you're a cybersecurity analyst. Is this something that people should worry about? Are apps spying on us? And if they are, the data they are taking from us, is it safe?
Okay, that's a good question. To directly answer apps spying on us, look, I think the evidence and the evidence shows that yes, they are harvesting information that we use. Okay, whilst we are on those apps. And that's what my colleague said. He's mentioned that it's actually not meant for bad. It's supposed to make your user experience better, so that Google can say that based on your location and your movement, right? Your workplace is at this place. So if you leave home, it should take about 20 minutes on this route to get there. It makes the experience better. I think the concern is in there. I think people feel that it may be abused. And let me give an example, right? So there are cases whereby people, lose their phones, or maybe they lose a particular email account and they go like, that email account, I don't really use it for mails much, so it doesn't really matter. But that email account is tied to it's a Gmail account, which was you once used to register a particular Android phone. In fact, it may currently be your Android phone's Gmail account. Now, by virtue of doing that, and if you go to My Activity, which we were talking about last week, myactivity.google.com, you see all the information that Google is keeping on you, location information, and all of that. So there was an incident, right, where someone was burgled. They broke into someone's house because the accounts, they took the phone to Tiptoe Lane to go and change the screen, right? And they didn't have any pin to lock the phone. And the guys were able to access this portal, right? And were able to understand the person's movement over a span of 1 week and understand, okay, this person likely lives here. Because Google keeps that information. Yeah. And capitalize on that. So you see, the likelihood of abuse is what makes it, a bit scary, and it helps for people to know that okay, this is the information an application is keeping on me, right? If I'm okay with this is how it can be used. I mean, on the flip side, and then put defenses up in place with regards to that. But I think it all starts from understanding what the application is taking and then thinking about how it could possibly be abused.
So, for our listeners' sakes, someone who doesn't really know as much as, the basic IT guy who could tell that, this app is asking for permission to use my microphone because it needs to be able to record voice notes, for example. How does a person tell that this permission that this app is taking from me is needed? Because Winston said, it's a skateboarding app and is asking for permission to use his phone. He doesn't know like I said, maybe he wants to let you talk to the other skater next to you. You don't know that. How does a person tell? Maybe you go and disable this location. Hey, Uber is asking for my location. They want to know where I am. No, I won't let them know. Then Uber's not working well. This same person goes back to Twitter and goes to bash Uber. I said I was at East Legon. The person went to Latebia.
That is valid. Okay, that is valid. How does the average person find this out? I think you suggested an application, right?
Yeah.
Exodus.
Excellent.
And I think I haven't used it yet, right? But I think if it helps review your application and permissions, I think it's a good start. But I think for the average user, right? I think the question is, what is the main purpose of the application? That's a core test.
So you need to understand,
right? That's the main
purpose
what's
of
the main
app.
purpose of the application. If the application is a flashlight application, you are supposed to turn on and off using my camera phone light. Then you obviously don't need access to my contact or possibly my location. So
what if I want to share the app to other people in my contact?
So at the end of the day, right, even that will be described in the product features when you are downloading it to tell you that, look, we do this and we also provide a functionality which will allow you to share this
flashlight
to your friends. So it starts from the function of the app. That is how you determine some of these things. If the function does not go in line with what it is the permission is asking for, then it's suspicious. And I think one thing that we need to also do is, I think the average user needs to upgrade their phones. Like, get phones with the most recent operating system. Why I'm saying that is that you realize that the old Android systems, right, the permissions still work in a way whereby you have to allow them like once when you install, and then the permissions are automatically allocated to the application. But the recent versions of Android, they install an application with 0 permissions. Now, when you are using an application, you need to make a call within the application, which will require the phone call feature. Then they will ask you explicitly for that permission. So I think if you keep your phone updated in terms of that sort, the system helps you sort out the suspicious apps from the legitimate ones.
Great. So, Josh, you have something to add to this?
Yeah, so for me, going forward, privacy is going to be very challenging. I mean, we are in the era of technological innovation, thanks to COVID-19. Everything is online. We're all going digital.
Like enjoy giving thanks to COVID.
Everything going online. So we're going to see a lot of IoT devices. When I say IoT devices, I mean smart devices. And all what these smart devices do is not for fun. They are collecting data. Data of our environment, ourselves, and everything. So we're going to see a lot of this happen in the next 5 years. So the challenge with privacy, well, to me, I think it's going to be a trade.
When you say a trade,
okay, so we're going to trade our data for better
services.
services, for public free or cheaper.
Now, continue.
Of which you either have to take it or leave it.
Right.
So if you leave it, you stay off the 21st century luxury or living. Then you go probably,
So, is it possible? Because I think the reason why a lot of data collection is a thing is because most of these services are free, right? Is it possible that app developers or these big tech companies can give an option? So say, hey, if you don't want us to take your data or user, you can buy a privacy-centric version of the app.
Okay, so
and it will cost you $5.99 a month, versus if you don't want to pay, then you can be free, and then we will use your data as we please.
Sure. I think going forward, there's going to be a lot of new business models that is going to be generated from the trends. Today, data is a new oil, so every tech company is going to harnessing data, and with the AI and then 5G coming up, it's going to speed up data collection and data processing. So data, as you're saying, is not going to be very expensive. And a company that can collect the most or have the most will be able to make the smarter decision, provide the best service to customers. So going forward, will people want to pay for privacy? Well, I think Apple is already providing that.
Mm.
An isolated environment where they are not open up to the world. So you pay a premium amount to enjoy Apple services that is secured. But that is also going to be expensive because we're also looking at a world where we thrive on sharing economy. So if you stay isolated, you might not enjoy the beauty of the new economy where everything is shared. So
I totally agree with this because, like you mentioned, with a Google services where it collects data from you over
Yeah.
time and then adapts to you. So when I wake up in the morning and I open Google Maps, there's an icon on the top left that says work. When I open it at 5 p.m., it says home. So it knows that at that point I'm going home, and when I tap it, it gives me directions to work in the morning, and when I'm going home, it gives me directions to home, and it gives me the traffic, situation and everything because it knows home and it knows work.
that's right.
Now, if I wasn't sharing this data, every time I open the app, I would have to
To
go
manually
in
type.
there,
And
manually
Spanky,
type.
we are looking at even interconnected world.
Mm.
So biological, physical, with digital. That's the fourth industrial revolution. So your car is going to connect to your phone, your office, your house. So this sort of interconnectivity is going to be difficult to say, I have my privacy.
Mhm.
It's going to be protected some level, but then when there's an intrusion or somebody get into it, there's least you can protect, even if
Uh-huh.
you want to pay for.
So that's the most important thing. You've already taken us there. It was going to be like one of the last things to talk about personally identifiable information. You may collect the data from me. That's fine. I agree. But what happens when someone breaks into your system? Can the person identify that data and say, "Oh, this is Spiky's data that you've collected"? That's
Well, they are not allowed to make it identifiable.
Okay.
sometimes they are.
From what Winston is
indirectly.
saying, I also want to chip into that. So let's say a company in Ghana here collects a lot of data, smart devices, and then somebody break into that data. The person might not necessarily want to pick the raw data. The person could build an AI model to learn from that data to identify individuals.
Exactly.
So possibility is possible.
Oh, the possibility exists, but if you are talking about the laws, you are not allowed.
But the laws are always
Exactly.
broken.
But the person has already broken the law in the first place.
No,
Yeah.
so when it comes to data protection laws from certain regions,
Mhm.
now let me be
Okay.
clear. China has the most lax data protection laws that I have ever read. I'm not a
Well,
lawyer.
this,
let me
this,
be clear.
this is a country where if you take a broken mark, they can copy it for you, and you expect them to have data protection laws. Like
So-
what for?
It's like each region has its own way of going about it. Interesting enough, America also has the next lax in terms of how stringent their rules is, also on the lax side. So now the thing here is that if Europe is saying that you shouldn't make it identifiable, that's why they are supposed to encrypt it and doubly encrypt it and all that. That's what they are supposed to do.
Today.
In their jurisdiction, if you don't do that and there's any problem, the GDPR just comes for, is it 5% of your GDP, annual GDP, and takes that money. If you feel it, that's cool. If you don't care,
You keep
that's also cool. You keep playing those games. But now the issues are that there's not a global data protection act.
Mm.
So each region has its own nuances. Africa here, if I remember correctly, Spike, you and I went for the first data protection summit for Africa some years back. If I remember correctly, we needed, I think, 17 people to ratify the African Data Protection Act, and that hasn't happened. So now you are having individual countries with their Data Protection Act. The problem with that is use country versus Facebook, as opposed to you continent versus Facebook. There's a difference in that. So when it comes to is it allowed or not, in some countries and in some areas, they don't bother encrypting because the laws do not allow that. But in areas where they are supposed to encrypt, trust me, they do. They
But
definitely
you
do.
see, I will get to that. I have a response to that. If you want to join us on the conversation, you can send us a WhatsApp message on 055 11 11 997. 055 quadruple 1 997. 055 11 11 997. I'll read a few of them. Hello, Kobby. Our data not dear. No matter what we do, it won't change. It won't change anything unless we now go off these apps, which is not likely. Anyways, Wafa, those of us who want something for Brunya, when are we getting our gift? That's what I'm asking. You get it soon. I'm planning something with Locker. I'll tell you about it very soon. Good evening, Geek Squad. Is there an application I can hack into a WhatsApp account remotely and have access to messages, files such as pics, videos, etc.? Is that an application? We'll see. Spiky, Kobby Nkrumah. Our problem is we don't read aloud, then we are allowing. My questions are, why do we have installed application on the phone already? How do you manage the unwanted applications on your phone? And is it compulsory to answer every app's question? Why don't I pay and keep my privacy? Still remembering you for my Google Pixel 3a phone.
It's the second time.
We are still second time, you think? We're still not saying with our privacy at all. Douglas from DC. Douglas, I haven't forgotten you. And your phone still calls me lobby. This is from Zenobia. Tim Agweke. He says, good evening. My phone on its own makes calls. Hey! From Geek Squad. That's from Tim. Tim, okay, we'll check that out. Good evening, geeks. Top 5 merits of any technological advancement comes with 8 demerits from security perspective. What we see in movies was 1 fictional, but not anymore. Let's call a spade a spade. Criminal masterminds have breached technological advancements. That's from Shem Mixon Yaboa. And we've got another message. Okay, no, still typing. So, yes, our data are not there. No matter what we do, we won't change anything unless we go off these apps. True or false?
Unless we go off these,
Yes.
I think Michael hasn't talked for a while, so I don't think.
Michael, true or false?
Yeah.
I mean, that is true.
Mm.
But the thing is, like you said earlier,
Mm-hmm.
the newer OSs are trying to keep you in tune with what these apps are asking you to do. And a big part of even being on top of what's going on is that you, as a consumer,
Mm-hmm.
have to take a bit more active interest into what these apps are supposed to do and what they're requesting from you. Because even iOS now as well, because earlier on we spoke more about Android but not iOS.
Mm-hmm.
But iOS now, iOS 14 has several privacy indicators and warnings that help keep your data secure. And it's even revealed several telling tricks that these apps have been using. For example, they now have recording indicators that tell you when either your microphone is recording or your camera is recording, with differences between them. And it has revealed that there are some apps that, even though they are supposed to be closed,
Yep.
right? And, well, I'll call a name, Instagram, for example. Yes, obviously, Instagram has camera permissions. It requires it. But then when you're not using Instagram, you don't think it is recording you in the background. But it turns out that's exactly what it was doing.
Wow.
Yeah.
So Instagram was spying on you.
Oh, yeah. Straight up. Your phone is locked on in your pocket, but then there's a little indicator saying that your microphone or your camera is on, and Instagram is listening to your conversations. And then other tricks have been coming out. Facebook has been caught reading people's clipboards.
Yeah. So when you highlight something and copy,
It's
Facebook
there.
goes to.
You copy it in a different app, but then when you open, you don't even need to open Facebook. It's there's waiting in the background like, yeah, you copied this, I will take that and that and
me
that
check it
and
out.
all the rest as well. Like that is what they keep doing.
That brings me to a message, a very, very interesting message from Emmanuel from 37. Hey, good evening, geeks. So just yesterday, I was having a chat about wedding gowns with my girlfriend, and this morning I got a WhatsApp message of some discounted gowns from a Chinese store I messaged in November last year. I found this strange. I'm wondering if my conversations are being spied on or it's just a coincidence.
You know, I think let's read the permissions that WhatsApp
Requires.
Right.
You
So
have it, you have it, right? Yeah.
So from the Exodus app, it's telling me that WhatsApp has 59 permissions,
Mm-hmm.
but it's put them into main categories.
Categories,
So it
yeah.
has read phone state,
Mm-hmm.
receive SMS, camera, use fingerprint, vibrate, use biometric, access course location, access find location,
Mm.
get accounts, read contacts, record audio, send SMS, write contacts, write external storage,
Mm.
and then it has call phone, answer phone calls, read call logs, read external storage. Now, all these have subsets under it, but we don't want to go into that.
Yeah.
So if we
I
take
think all these make sense if we
Yeah.
we can understand what they do. So nowhere there does it say it reads your messages.
So, at the end of the day, yes, it all makes sense. But, remember what this WhatsApp privacy policy was about? Remember they were saying something on the third clause. They said the ability to share this information with the Facebook group of companies.
Yes.
True.
So you realize that, at a point in time, what tends to have happening, or what ends up happening is that the Facebook group of companies, right, tend to be so many, organizations and third parties you can't even name. And some of this information may be passed to them, right? Then it will be used later as some of the ads that you are seeing. Okay, so
But in his case,
yes,
he got a message from a Chinese store about wedding gowns that he.
Is he using a WhatsApp business app? Just randomly asking.
Okay, so
so it could be anything. I mean, he could have so many applications on his phone that are capable of doing just that.
True.
Okay, it could even be that he searched it somewhere. Okay,
But he said he
on
had
the
early on messaged this business, so it could be a coincidence.
It could be.
If he hadn't previously messaged this business and it had just appeared there, this would be a very huge cause for worry.
That's true.
Yeah.
If you had messaged them before, then
Then it could
it's
be
more
a
likely
sheer
to be a wild
coincidence.
coincidence.
So
But
I mean, I would say, okay, why don't you go and have another chat about something else and let's see if you get another message. Yeah, just trying to see if it works. I think it's a coincidence because you've already previously messaged them. But then again, yeah, you can try something else and let's see.
and I think I wanted to chip in something.
Right.
I've used this chipping. I tried to avoid it, but because we've used it all over the place.
You always chip in.
I
As a
wanted to
hacker.
add something, okay, to what he was, the panelist was saying regarding, and also your question about privacy, whether we should be willing to pay a premium to have our privacy, and I feel that would not be fair, okay, because and if we were doing that, people who were not in some particular maybe bracket will sell their privacy because they don't have the money. That doesn't seem fair.
Oh,
so that's
true.
where the regulations come in. Like the General Data Protection Regulation in the EU. Now, the beautiful thing about that one, right, is that when they carved it to be enforced in the European Union, most of the apps couldn't afford to just enforce it there and then not enforce it in there, because the EU is quite a big community. So you find that even though our laws are not strong enough to compel them, we are still benefiting from some of the things that the GDPR brought.
Yeah.
And one of the things is the fact that every single person listening to this show, for most of the apps that you are using, you can request to find out the data they are keeping on you.
True.
So I did for WhatsApp just yesterday, request my account info, and since I started using WhatsApp, they have that data. Since I started using WhatsApp, every single person I've blocked, every single status message I've actually updated, they have everything. Okay, so I think those are the things that users can benefit from when it comes to some of these things, and the laws and regulations, in short, are supposed to help us from paying premium, because that would be unfair to the average user. I think so.
I find it wildly ironic that yes, WhatsApp has all this information that they can give to you, going back as far back as before you even realized you were using WhatsApp. But when you're trying to transfer a WhatsApp backup from one account to another, then suddenly it doesn't work properly.
No, thank you very much. So, hey, Spiky, does Wi-Fi keep you private? I play Asphalt a lot, and anytime I'm able to beat some time already set, I get notified to share on Facebook, which I do not allow. Does this make sense? That's Tom Brown in Taiwan.
I guess he is using his Facebook account as the major account on Asphalt, so that is why it is asking. But you don't need.
You don't need to. You can choose to share it or not.
Yeah, you don't need to share
Yeah.
it. I mean, people share their Candy Crush, but
Now, still on permissions, still from Tom Brown in Taiwan. He says, no app, I stand to be corrected though, keeps your data, and the problem might be the severity of the data stored or shared. Just as Facebook Messenger wants to get access to text messaging, is it not the same value Truecaller also actually requires? Okay, so he says he uses Google account to create most of his apps. So, yeah.
So his question is what exactly?
Okay, so the first one was that it doesn't make sense why Asphalt is asking him to share
that
on
one
Facebook.
touch on that.
Yeah, and then he says that no app, he stands to be corrected, keeps your data, and the problem might be the severity of the data stored or shared. Just as Facebook Messenger wants to get access to text messaging, is it not the same value Truecaller also actually requires? I'm trying to understand that sentence, Tom Brown.
Okay, so I think he's trying to say that I mean these things are things you can't live without. Or
There's
Yeah.
No, that's it. First off, but there's something I know you really want to touch on that he reminded you
The
of.
true
And I wa-
color.
yeah. So I want you to come back, but I want to mention that there's no minimum point for how much for the importance of your data. There really is. Sometimes you may think of something that it is absolutely insignificant to you,
But
but
it
you
could be.
do not know
It's
how.
like the course and the find location.
yeah.
Course location, complements a find location.
Yeah.
With that, they can still track. Kobby, please let me know the app that helps to monitor the permissions called Exodus.
Yeah. Now to add to what Michael is saying, there's in the GDPR, there's a ruling that says that you are not allowed to share the information you have collected with another company. It's not allowed. They should go and get
Their own data.
So isn't it quite interesting that although Facebook acquired WhatsApp, they are explicitly asking us that they want to share the information across board. If we all agreed, if we all turned a blind eye and agreed, they would have done it because you have given your consent. And now we've
Wait,
seen.
when you say they would have done it, you're saying it like they haven't done it.
I mean, they are saying that they haven't done it.
No, they are saying that now they need your permission to continue doing it.
That is true, but in my experience, I have not. Okay, I don't use Facebook as much. I have not had any noticeable transfer of things I've spoken about or things I've done or pictures I've viewed coming on my Facebook feed. I stand to be corrected because I barely use Facebook. But now the issue here is that why is it that they are asking us explicitly for permission to hand over our data? Because technically it's not really allowed. Because WhatsApp in itself, although it's under Facebook, it's a company on its own. It was acquired by Facebook. So I don't think they are allowed to just hand it over. I mean, right now we have message.
Well, it says WhatsApp from Facebook, right?
Yeah,
when
from
you open
Facebook.
it. So yeah,
it is theirs.
Facebook
It is
is not the
theirs.
mother
Yeah, it is
company.
theirs.
But to me, I'm saying this because why are they asking us explicitly? They could have just done it.
Yeah, so
Transparency.
the only difference is
Like,
right. Yes, the information that they were already keeping, the your IP, your phone date, all those things, right? They've been keeping it since 2016. This permission isn't supposed to give them access to keep on doing that. No, they are already doing that. They're going to continue doing that. The only thing that's changed is the business angle.
Yes,
Their
WhatsApp business.
business.
Yeah.
They want.
You see, so because now there's WhatsApp business where a business can exist on WhatsApp, they are now asking for permission to, okay, we want to extend the data we're keeping to our business partners. If the caveat is, if you've interacted with a WhatsApp business, then you've given us you've told us subliminally to be able to share that information with them. That's what the privacy policy was about. So the only caveat is the WhatsApp business that has come on board.
And
with
to
this
add
bit.
to what you're saying,
Okay.
Changing for- I think
WhatsApp has for the longest time. I mean, Facebook has for the longest time wanted to recreate the success of WeChat. That is what this entire thing is about. Let's be honest. They want to turn WhatsApp into WeChat. The Asian market can literally not survive without WeChat. They do everything. They pay for their phone bills, school fees. They do
true, that's
everything
That's true.
on WeChat. WhatsApp has already started introducing payment platforms on their site.
Yeah.
So it goes without saying that they want to turn this into a
Another-
business empire that we cannot do without. So that's what this is about.
Hi, Geek Squad. This is Wolf. So we all know Zuckerberg has a deficiency when it comes to privacy policies and data protection. Looking back on his impeachment, now he's having WhatsApp privacy linked to Facebook. Then the hackers swarming like bees all over Facebook are going to have a field day with everyone from WhatsApp. That's Wolf. We're going to open the phone lines for a bit. We've got a few minutes. If you want to call us, it's 0302 216 541 0302 216 541. I'll say it slower. 0302 216 541. Yeah, we all sound muffled because we're masked up. I hope you're also masked up in whatever mode of transportation that you're going home, or if you're walking car. Actually, keep that mask on. Let's fight COVID together. Okay, let me keep reading the messages. You guys wanted to say something about Truecaller. I can see.
Yes, I mean, I think that was one of those glaring things. In there. Well, speaking of Truecaller, I think it's one app that people don't really think about what they take from you.
How
But
it even
benefit-
works.
Pardon?
Yeah,
How
how
it
it
even
works.
works.
Yeah, how it even works. You know, they just like the benefit of what Truecaller does, which is that it identifies an
Strange
unknown
numbers.
caller
Yeah.
But basically, how Truecaller works is that by subscribing to use Truecaller on your phone,
You
installing the app,
submitted.
it takes your entire address book and submits it to their service.
Yeah.
So that when another person calls,
Just
right, they
grabs
just go through the collection of all the contacts they've taken around the world and identify the name by which someone else might have saved it by. And what people don't realize, especially for corporate people, that's the part where I'm very much interested in, is that you are keeping, maybe you work in some sensitive government or financial sector, right? You're keeping big top people in your contact list. By virtue of you using Truecaller, you have
You've given
sacrificed
them
all
away.
of them
Yeah,
and
you
put them
see,
online.
JJ Rollins one.
JJ Rollins one, BOG governor one.
Yeah, one. You know.
You know, I actually tested how Truecaller works.
It's
I
very
got
interesting.
this MTN number, and I've never saved the contact. Never saved it. Michael has saved the contact differently. Another friend of mine has saved it differently, and then we used Truecaller. When it called, one time it came as what Michael
I saved it
had
as.
saved it as, because we suspect, because Michael doesn't use Truecaller, so we felt that was someone else. But then another time it showed up as the control test. That was my friend, what he has saved it as. So what he said is very true. Like, you are here using funny names to save people's contacts. Banku.
Yeah.
This is
Momo Donator one.
I downloaded, so let me go a message here. I downloaded Boomplay and it was asking to have access to my phone calls. So I quickly deleted it. Why should a music app have access to my phone calls?
Exactly.
That was
Now-
Google Play.
Maybe wants to,
Boomplay.
Boom.
maybe
No,
wants
you
to
see-
play the song to your friends as well.
Yeah,
Like
call the
listen to
person
this.
and play the
Caller
music.
tune.
But then again, it could also be, you know, sometimes when you're creating an account on some of these apps and it can't reach you by SMS, it tries to call you.
Yes.
So some of these apps need permission to access your calls. So when the call comes in, it picks and talks to that robot to get a code to activate.
It's plausible. It's
It is
plausible.
possible, but
You
it's the
see?
last. I mean,
It is-
SMS is first.
Yeah, then if that
Which you
doesn't
don't need
work,
to get
then
permission
phones.
for.
Personally, I found the review section of
Yeah.
applications very helpful.
Exactly.
You find that people are able to expose applications if you look at the reviews. Some people will tell you that, look, I downloaded this application and all it has been doing is this, and that. And speaking about Truecaller, one thing
Well, we've got a
about
caller on the line. Let me put
Okay,
you
that's
guys on hold for a bit. Hello?
Hello guys, what's up? What's
We're
up?
good. We're good. How you doing?
I'm very well. How are you guys?
We're very well. What's up? Your name and where you're
And
calling
so-
from, please.
Okay, my name is Ishmael. I'm calling from Georgia.
You're calling from Wager.
Yes.
Okay, your suggestion.
And so who is doing worse
Sorry?
between Facebook and Truecaller and the rest? Who is doing worse in terms of taking our privacy?
Okay, listen, who's doing well?
Who is doing worse?
Who's doing worse?
Yes.
Okay. We'll answer that in a bit. Okay, so who's doing worse between
I mean,
face?
it's obviously Facebook.
Always. At least with Google, there's some evidence that is being used for the general good.
and you can also remove it.
You
Yeah,
can
you
delete
can.
it, but with Facebook you can't.
And
Okay,
Facebook
we've
has
got
had
another caller on the line. Hello.
Hello,
Yes, sir. Your
Good
name and where you're
evening.
calling from. Good evening.
my name is Eko, and I'm calling from Amazon.
Hi, you call from Amasaman.
Yes. I realize you made mention of a particular app, like the Exodus,
Yes.
and which can tell you the kind of permissions that you have.
Mhm.
What are the disadvantages of that app as well?
Right.
And also talk much about the Truecaller, because you know that it definitely is using the AIs and it's like retrieving all those information.
Right.
Yes, so I just want to know more about that.
Sure. Thank you very much for calling. So yes, Exodus. It reminds me of Have I Been Pwned, where you go and check your email and password to see if it. The first time I told someone about it, it's like, how sure am I that if I enter my email in that service, I'm not also submitting my email or my password to be hacked? So his question: what permissions is Exodus itself? How safe is Exodus itself?
Well, then,
Developed by Moses.
it's a dance. Because you have to give up something to get something. Like, I mean, you talked about Have I Been Pwned? I've forgotten the name of this website. You and I were working on the project, and I showed you. This website shows the strength of your password. You put in your password, you type in your password,
And it tells you whether it's strong or
Yeah,
not.
and to
We'll be
tell you
right
how
back.
strong.
We've got another caller. Hello.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Your name and where you're calling from?
Spiky.
Yeah.
Hey. Hello?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. Charlie, you know, some of them are I'm trying to look for a screenshot took on my other phone. You know what? I tried to do a certain app, and the move
I'm
came.
finding it quite difficult to hear. If you could just position yourself better a little bit.
Hello?
Yes.
Is it better?
Much better.
Good. So yes, I think it was music man. And do you know how they did the permission? It came with experiment. They literally gave me 5 seconds to accept.
Oh.
Yeah, so if you can type and see music is like another
Right.
version.
The one that shows you the lyrics.
Thank you.
Yeah, I know that app.
I just got a new phone. So I tried to, set it up. And I'm looking at it. So I didn't I canceled, but then I tried it again and took a screenshot. And it's just important in allowing music match notifications when they start perform the fucking action. And seriously, give me 5 seconds. So it has to and cancel. And there was a second time in the access. And I was thinking, how the hell am I supposed to read this in 5 seconds?
Wow.
I'll tell it on the page in what you call it, Telegram.
Great. So you share that on the Telegram group. And thank you for calling. So for anyone who wants to join the Telegram group, it's t.me/Joy Geek Squad. And yes, we're going to continue this conversation on the Telegram group because we've run out of time. I'm sorry if we couldn't answer all your questions or read all your messages. The show has to come to an end because the news is up next. My name is Kobby Spiky Nkrumah. Shout outs to my producer, Prince Afo, and Dennis the Fairboy, Abiyaku Sankofi, Selwyn. And thank you guys for joining me, Joshua, Michael, Winston, and Joseph. Catch you guys next week. Thank you too for listening. And yeah, the news is next.